Apes, we humans have been called worse things. But did you know that scientifically speaking, it's actually true? Yep, here's the story of human evolution. Hey there, welcome to Life Noggin. While you may know a thing or two about the origin of life, or maybe even dinosaurs, how much do you know about human evolution? How did we go from nomadic hunter-gatherers to, well, us? To answer this question, let's start at the beginning. Humans belong to the animal kingdom, the kingdom Animalia, which includes all animals, obviously. We also fall into the broader category of primates, which are characterized by things like 5-fingered hands and 5-toed feet, relatively large brains, and forward-facing eyes. Within the primate group, humans, along with apes, like chimpanzees, bonobos, gorillas, orangutans, and the now extinct Neanderthals, and Homo erectus, are classified in the genus Homo, and we especially notable humans are classified in the species Homo sapiens. But just because we belong to the same genus doesn't mean we evolved directly from any of these other groups, including chimps, our closest living relatives. Instead, all members of the Homo genus and the other great ape species alive today share a common ancestor that lived around 6 to 7 million years ago. Ancestor, if you will. This common ancestor was neither a human nor a chimp. It was likely more like an ape-human hybrid, though DNA analysis suggests that anatomically modern great apes diverged from this common ancestor around 4 to 5 million years ago, so they didn't look anything like us. And after that point, various species within the genus Homo began to emerge in Africa. These included Homo habilis, who made their debut around 2.8 million years ago, and were among the first members of the genus Homo. They were known for being one of the first tool-making species, which helped scientists identify them based on the tools found alongside their fossils. Homo erectus, who showed up around 1.8 million years ago, had a larger brain than Homo habilis, and they were the first hominins to migrate out of Africa. And they were also some of the first to hunt big game, though they probably didn't do it alone. Neanderthals emerged around 400,000 years ago, and stuck around until 40,000 years ago, when they went extinct. They were stockier than Homo sapiens, which helped them conserve body heat in cold climates, and they were known for burying their dead, which indicates that they had complex beliefs surrounding death. So you can see that human evolution isn't a straight line from apes to humans. Instead, it more closely resembles a family bush where different species split off at various points in time. Some went extinct, and some, like us, survived. And this means that humans didn't evolve from any currently existing ape species. Rather, we share a common ancestor with them. Kind of like how you and your cousin share a common ancestor, your grandparent. You didn't evolve from your cousin, and they didn't evolve from you. You both evolved from your shared grandparent. Even the oldest fossils of Homo sapiens are only about 300,000 years old, and they come from Ethiopia. And fossils tell only part of the story. The fossil record is incomplete and biased towards larger animals, and those in geographically and geologically favorable areas. So it doesn't give us the full picture of our history. To get a clearer picture, scientists use something called the molecular clock to estimate the time of divergence between species by looking at the DNA that codes for proteins. Over time, DNA changes, and these changes can be used to build a tree of life, kind of like the one we mentioned earlier. One study that used this method found that humans and chimpanzees diverged from one another around 6 to 7 million years ago, which matches up pretty well with what the fossil evidence suggests. However, another study found that humans diverged from the common ancestor much earlier, around 9 to 13 million years ago. But the problem with using the molecular clock is that it assumes that mutations occur at a steady rate. But mutation rates aren't constant. They vary between species and over time. So scientists need to consider this when they interpret the results. Another complicating factor is that sometimes different parts of the genome evolve at different rates. For example, one part might evolve quickly, while another part evolves slowly. So scientists have to decide which parts of the genome to use when building the molecular clock. And they still don't know exactly how to account for differences in mutation rates across the genome. But researchers are working on improving these methods. For example, in 2022, one team tweaked a method of analyzing DNA, called base composition, to take mutation rates into account. And when they applied it to primates, they confirmed the previously accepted date for the split between humans and chimpanzees. Other researchers have looked at the rate of molecular evolution in Homo sapiens over the past 2 million years, and compared that rate to the rate of evolution in other primates. They concluded that humans have experienced a slowdown in the rate of molecular evolution, which has resulted in a smaller effective population size. In other words, there have been fewer humans alive at any given time over the past 2 million years than there were of other primate species. This could be due to things like low birth rates, high rates of infant mortality, or a combination of the two. And it may indicate that humans have been experiencing a genetic bottleneck, or a sharp decline in population size, throughout our evolutionary history. But they also suggested that more research is needed to confirm this. So how long have humans been around? Well, according to most analyses, Homo sapiens have been around for about 300,000 years. But recent findings suggest that they may have been around for 400,000 years or longer. One team reanalyzed the DNA from a bone fragment found at the Jebel Irhoud site in Morocco. This site contains some of the oldest known Homo sapiens fossils. The previous analysis suggested that the individual represented an archaic form of Homo sapiens that lived 300,000 years ago. But the new analysis revealed that the individual was more genetically similar to modern humans than Neanderthals were. And they estimated that the common ancestor of all modern humans lived between 500,000 and 300,000 years ago. But since the fossil itself is at least 300,000 years old, the researchers argued that the upper bound of 500,000 years should be considered a minimum estimate. So we don't know exactly how long humans have been around, but it hasn't always been smooth sailing. In fact, most human evolution has been marked by struggle. Consider the environmental changes that have occurred during the Pleistocene epoch, which lasted from around 2.6 million to 11,700 years ago. During this time, most of Europe and North America were covered in ice sheets, which greatly affected the types of plants that could grow and therefore the animals that could live there. Ice sheets also lowered sea levels, which exposed large parts of the continental shelf, which is the shallow area of the ocean floor that surrounds large land masses. This created land bridges between continents that allowed animals to migrate into new areas. Scientists think that the changing environment contributed to major shifts in human evolution, such as the emergence of larger brains. As humans migrated into colder environments, they faced a challenge: how to maintain a sufficiently large brain while keeping warm. Brains require a lot of energy to function, so if humans couldn't find enough food to meet their energy needs, their brain size would decrease. But the advent of culture and technology helped our species overcome this challenge. For example, early humans developed clothing to stay warm, which freed up energy for larger brains. And they also developed tools that made it easier to acquire food, such as spears that could be used for hunting, or digging tools that could be used for gathering. Culture also enabled humans to adapt to a wide range of environments, which may have contributed to their success. For example, humans developed social norms and customs that helped them cooperate in large groups, which would have been beneficial in new environments. And humans weren't the only ones to make it big. Domestication of dogs is thought to have occurred sometime between 15,000 and 30,000 years ago, though some estimates say as far back as 40,000 years ago, and scientists think that humans domesticated dogs after they split from other apes. They may have initially formed a symbiotic relationship with wolves, where humans offered wolves food in exchange for their protection. Or wolves may have scavenged human food waste. Either way, this relationship gradually led to domestication, as humans selectively bred wolves with desirable traits, such as tameness, eventually leading to the modern dog. However, humans and dogs may have gone separate ways and then come back together again. Some researchers have proposed that dogs went wild during the Bronze Age, when people were migrating around Europe, and then humans domesticated them once again during the Iron Age. According to this idea, dogs went through multiple cycles of domestication and de-domestication. Regardless, dogs were some of our earliest and most loyal companions, and they continue to be our friends to this day. While humans certainly had a hand in their own evolution, like when we deliberately selected for certain traits in dogs, much of evolution is random. A change in a single DNA base pair can result in a harmful, neutral, or beneficial trait, depending on the individual and the environment they live in. And sometimes a string of random events leads to extinction. Humans have definitely experienced random events throughout our history, but the extent to which chance has influenced our evolution is up for debate. One camp believes that random genetic drift has played a major role in human evolution, while the other believes that natural selection has been the driving force. And a 2022 study suggests that it's actually been a combination of the two. The researchers analyzed whole genome sequences of 230 individuals from 14 groups in Africa, and found that genetic drift has been a key factor in shaping human history. Specifically, They discovered that a severe genetic bottleneck occurred in Africa around 2,000 years ago, which coincides with historical records of a decline in population due to a devastating pandemic. They also found evidence of positive selection acting on genes related to immune response, suggesting that the immune system continues to be a battleground between humans and pathogens. So humans didn't evolve from apes, but we do share a common ancestor with them, and evolution isn't just random chance. There's a delicate balance between nature and nurture, between the genetic cards we're dealt and the hand we're dealt. In other words, yes, humans did evolve from apes, but that's not the whole story either. Now you're welcome. Now stay curious. Why do we yawn? What's the smallest mammal in the world? Click here to watch one of these next videos and find out. Don't forget to subscribe.